Hey there, it's Diane Forster, and welcome to I Have Today, the show that inspires, educates, and empowers you through life's transitions. And each week on this show, I bring on the coolest, most awesome, amazing CEOs, entrepreneurs, experts, global changers, life leaders, and people who are truly passionate about the work they do. And they come on this show and they share their stories of their own reinventions in life and how they've come out on the other side successful. And tonight I am so excited about my guest. She's a fairly new friend. We met several months ago and instantly hit it off and had so much symmetry in our philosophies and the way we think. Although our work is similar, it's also different. And she's got a phenomenal story that you need to be here for. And her name is Dana Pharant. Hey, Dana, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Diane?
I'm doing so great. I am so excited about this show. I'm so excited that I got the champagne out.
Woo-hoo! I love it. I wish I had that memo. I could have joined you.
I know, it was a spur of the moment decision, but it was really good because you guys, Dana, let me tell you about her in a minute. I'm going to read her bio, but she is a badass business performance coach. And when you hear her bio, you're going to understand why and how valuable it is to be a badass in your life and in your business. So this week, our theme for the show is how to overcome self-doubt and reveal your hot, badass self. And guys, if you're watching or listening, this is for you too. And even though it's focused a lot on women, and this is, women are attracted to this work, we do not discriminate. We work with men as well. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, and our intention for this week, if you're writing this down, is I have today to own and love my sexy, badass self. I love that. I have today to own and love my sexy, badass self. Woo! Very excited about that. All right. So let me read Dana's bio to you and tell you just a little bit about her, because she's going to go much deeper into her story and talk about her transition from where she was to how she built over a 7-figure business and how she's changing the lives of so many people. Okay. So becoming a badass in life and business requires you to stand in your power and be super comfy with being unique. Dana Pharant knows all about standing out and being unique. Her personal brand of the Inner Dominatrix pushes people out of their comfort zone, challenges their preconceived notions, and has them stepping into a fierce determination to rock their bold, sexy, fun-filled lives. Dana is a badass business performance coach who works with entrepreneurs to find and reconnect with who they are at the core, to uncover their bulletproof confidence, and to be able to welcome the judgment and challenges that come with building a big business in a way that is fun and full of ease. I love that. She's going to share her story of growing up and surviving a cult, and her 27 years of experience at this that makes her the badass that she is today. Okay, Dana, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay, so
that is like a powerful reading of that bio. It's like, whoa, I'm all juiced up. I'm like, that sounds really good.
Right, I want to know her. I want to know more about her.
I want to be her. Oh, wait, I am.
You are her, which is so cool. I just love this. I gotta just say, before you even get into stuff, I love my life. I love what I do. I love all the fascinating people I get to meet, and you are one of them. And I love how all of this works together when we're in this space of being in service of others, entrepreneurs, people who are looking to reinvent themselves, to really step out and live in confidence and get rid of that self-doubt and live to their greatest potential. We connect with the most powerful workers and experts and people who are in this field really serving others. And we all seem to lift each other up, which is such it was a pleasant surprise for me through my own reinvention to do this. So I'm so honored to know you and to share this time with you, and that you decided to come on I Have Today to share your expertise with our audience. So on that note, will you share, tell the story, because when you first told me the story, I was like, oh my God, WTF, what? Like, this is amazing, amazing. So you have the floor.
Awesome. So grab a cup of tea, because this is not something that can be summed up in a, 1 or 2 sentences.
Yeah.
So my journey started out in being raised in a cult. So I grew up Jehovah's Witness, but my father took it to the extreme, the utmost extreme. So that moved it really from a mild cult into more of an extreme cult. And with that came various forms of abuse. And, I have come to terms with it now. And I say I got to sample from the entire smorgasbord of types of abuse. So I have a deep understanding of that. And when I left the cult, religion, however you want to call it, I had no outside support. So I didn't know anyone outside of the religion. I didn't have, I didn't make friends with people outside. I wasn't able to, associate it with the parties and things. And so my network was all within the organization. I had a very strong network there. I had friends, I had, surrogate family. So leaving that, in hindsight, I realized, like, wow, that is like a really strong thing to do. At the time, I just knew that this religion is crazy, and, all y'all are crazy, and I need out. That was all I knew. I was just like, I need out,
How old were you?
I was just shy of 18.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And to think, and also keep in mind, I led a very sheltered life. So I was 18 with the sexual maturity of an 11-year-old, because I was so sheltered in all of this. And so I didn't, I didn't have a lot of the skills that a lot of people had. So throw myself out into the world, and I go to the other side. And the resource that I do have is that my mom had left previously, but my mom is like the complete opposite of what I grew up in. And so she's like, there's like free flowing sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And it is really like, it could not have get much more extreme. She's, living with a drug dealer, and, there's just all kinds of interesting things going on there. So of course, more interesting things happening to my my life in those experiences.
So you go from this really abusive, sheltered, cult environment, growing up there, pretty much your whole life, right? Because your dad was such a part of it, to this other extreme world. And with the maturity of like an 11-year-old, like you said. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
wow.
It was quite an experience, and it really took me a long time to figure out, who am I? So, since I've done lots of research in cults and how people recover and how they recuperate. And part of it is that if you leave a cult, you go back to who you were eventually, like you go back to reconnecting with who you were. But who I was prior to the cult was not born. So I had no sense of identity in who I was and what worked for me and what didn't. And so now when I look back, I realize that my extremes of trying out, like I tried out alcohol and drugs, and then I tried out no alcohol and drugs and going to AA, and the extremes, every extreme that you could experience, I tried out both sides so that I could find my happy medium. And this was my path for 20 years. And at the same time, I was also really dedicated to finding a way to heal my body and the abuse that I went through. And I, tried out all the things. I was pretty much in therapy for 20 years, and it helped, but there was still this piece that was like, there's something else. Wow. And I have this, this sense of like, there's got to be more. There's got to be more available. It's got to be a deeper healing. And so I had trained professionally as a massage therapist. That was my first level of training. And I had a client come in to me, and she disclosed to me that she was involved in kink, which is BDSM, think 50 Shades of Grey. Sometimes I have to elaborate on these terms for people. So, yeah. And of course, she wanted me to know so that if I saw marks and bruises, then we could have an open discussion about it. It wasn't, something that's like, ooh, right? Like, she doesn't have to hide it. But this lit up a spark for me. I was like, ooh, what is that? So every time she'd come in, I was like peppering her with questions, and we'd have these great discussions, and she just would talk about things so openly and so honestly. And I was just kept getting more and more intrigued, and she'd lend me books, and I, it took me several years, it took me honestly 9 years. And then finally I was in a position to go, sorry, you need to interject. Finally I was able to get to a party, because we call them play parties. And so I go and I end up connecting with somebody who has the bent of healing along with this kink play. And so we blended out and scripted out a scene that allowed me to reenact the abuse, but have a different outcome. And if anybody studies psychology at all, you know that this is so profoundly powerful for removing it from the body. Now, not everybody wants to go to that level, and I get that. So, but it did spark me to want to learn how to be a dominatrix so that I could take other people on this journey, because at the heart and core of it, of my being, is I am a healer. And so this seemed like a fascinating way for me to take people on this journey. And what I didn't realize was that it was going to transform who I was.
Wow.
Because,
okay. So how old were you when this happened?
So I got involved.
Epiphany.
Yeah, the epiphany. So 2006, I didn't calculate how old I was. And
okay.
Yeah.
So about 13 years ago. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. So 2006 to 2012, I was heavily involved in this world and studying to be a dominatrix, being a dominatrix, and stepping into it. It's not something you can pretend. It's not like I'm just going to put on this outfit and I'm going to pretend that I'm a dominatrix. You actually have to embody it. And you have to stand in this energy where you are willing to hold a very strong container of energy in the room. You're willing to stand in a position of being the expert. And it's not power over. Like a lot of people think of it as, I get to decide what it works. No. We have a whole discussion prior to any scene. It's all negotiated. It's safe, sane, and consensual. You've probably heard those words. Yeah. And, that script is loosely planned out.
Wait, did you say safe, sane, and sensual?
Consensual.
Oh, consensual. I was like, that 3 S's would have been good.
It would. I mean, it can be very sensual, but, yes, safe,
I
sane. No problem. So it's actually a high level service position at the core.
Okay.
You are holding the energy, holding the power so that the other person can surrender. They can drop into that space of, I'm going to let go of all the pressures and all the worries and all of the stress and everything. And I'm just going to be able to surrender and drop into this present moment. It's really an incredible experience. Yes, it sounds like so liberating and so freeing. It amazing. Yeah. Amazing. And I really wanted other people to experience this. And gradually I figured out that not everybody wanted to go to the dungeon, surprisingly. Right. I was like, what? Hey, right. Why not? Right? No, I do
Have you been to the dungeon?
Have you been?
So, until you've been. Oh my gosh.
So concurrent to my time learning to be a dominatrix, that was more in my personal life. I did do a bit of pro work, but just enough to realize that that's not my path. And but concurrent to all of this, I've got my massage therapy. I'm building massage therapy clinics. I started a massage supply outlet that we built up into the 7-figure mark. And then just at the end of my time as a dominatrix, when the universe decides I have something better planned for you, my big business ends up hitting, the proverbial iceberg. So here's my Titanic and coming up and hitting the iceberg, and we start having a sinking Titanic at this point. So we hit a bankruptcy. I have to do a massive restructure, go through like crazy time. But the gift was once I got through the massive crazy and I was able to actually sit with it and say, what happened? Why did this go wrong? And I got to looking at things and saying, I've got all this power in my personal life as a dominatrix, but I wasn't bringing that into my business. I wasn't leading my business from this beautiful, empowered space. I
Yes.
was doing all kinds of crazy things that people do in business. And that caused the business to go bankrupt. So even though we built it solely on word of mouth customer service and a tiny bit of advertising, I did no sales calls. It was all customer attraction coming in, which is quite phenomenal for that side.
Very phenomenal.
Right? So I'm really owning that now. I'm like letting myself own that. And
that's so impressive.
Thank you. So here we've got lots of sales coming in, but there's all this funky stuff going on, and so we were losing money all hand over fist. It was going out. But when I made this awareness of that, this power, this piece of my inner dominatrix was what needed to come into the business. As soon as I brought that archetype and that energy into the business, things turned around like lightning fast. It was easy to sell people. It was easy to upsell them, but from integrity. It was always from that high level service and opportunities dropping in my lap, things lining up. Like this is, and it's still today, this is the energy that I work with all the time. Yes. And I teach people how to get into is this space because it's so magnetic. It's so compelling. And I feel it's vital for yes. everyone in business to stand in this authentic power.
There's so many things that I want to say about all of this. I love this story. The biggest point I want to touch on that you shared for everyone who's listening or watching this right now, wherever you are in your business. I was just reading something about this today, about how successful businesses, it doesn't matter how successful it is, you're going to hit a point where it does plummet again. It is just the nature of business. It is entropy. It is the way things flow and move. And it's through these trying experiences, these catastrophic experiences, the ones that blindside us, that you discovered, I've got to pull all of this that I'm infusing in my personal life into the business because that makes me so powerful, right? And it's through that breakdown, you had this breakthrough, and this cannot be emphasized enough to entrepreneurs out there because they think, so many of them are quote unquote struggling, and they struggle, and then there is going to be another level of struggle, and then another level of struggle. So it's what you're saying is the inner power and the strength comes from within, and that's what you excel at in helping your clients draw out of themselves. Okay.
And I love that you said draw out of themselves, because I'm not giving anybody anything. I'm helping them to find where it sits already. Yeah. It's already there.
It's already there.
A matter of unwrapping it and leaning on it. And the piece about challenges, I mean, we are going to be faced like as we grow businesses. Like I love working with people who go big with their business because there's just so many fun challenges to lean into and areas where we can grow. And I do business as a personal development sport. So, it's the personal challenge to actually grow and step into all of these things. But rather than seeing a challenge as a bad thing, to be able to get to the place where we welcome these things coming in and seeing the gift as they are happening, right? Yes. It's easy in hindsight to look back and go, wow, what a gift. But to be able to be trained to the point where you are in the moment saying, all right, this is all up. And I forgot to check with you whether I could swear here or not, but
oh, you can say whatever you want.
Awesome. Okay. So when you're up in the shit and the storm is happening and it's swirling around and you're in the moment of going, oh my God, this is like crazy ass. And there's this space of like, wow, I wonder what this is bringing, because this is going to be epic.
Yes.
To have both of it. And that's the trick of what you want to get to, because we're never going to make that bad stuff go away. There's always going to be those pieces, because if we don't work our muscles, if we don't actually lift something heavier, we don't grow.
I know. And I shared 27 years you've been in business on your own. And I shared with you, I'm an entrepreneur for 3.5 years, and I've seen so many revisions of my business already. And, you know, I worked for 32 years in corporate. It's not like I didn't have a career and a lot of experience, but the reinvention of myself. And so, it took a while for me to finally realize, oh my God, this is never going to end. Like the reinvention, the growth, the you know, the repivoting, the reformatting, and each step of the way, there's going to be growth opportunities. It's never just going to be status quo. And that's just not the way the universe works anyway. Everything is moving anyway. So it takes a lot of inner strength, right? This is what you do. You know, inner strength, self-confidence, resilience, to be able to step up to that. And someone like you who's, you know, got somebody's by the hand, you've got their back, you're there supporting them. So I just love this conversation, because I personally am going through this whole thing right now. I just decided yesterday to make a major life transition in my life. And I'm reinventing again. Totally everything, the home, the business, the everything. So, so this is so powerful, of course, perfect divine timing. And I was just like, okay, well, let's go, let's do it. And so I'm loving this conversation so much, that this is what you do. Okay, so what's been your biggest challenge?
I would say for me, it was the being plagued with the self-doubt. So the messages I grew up with, possibly more enhanced than what most women grew up with. So growing up in the cult, women were very definitely second-class citizen. It was both overt and covert messages coming in that, you know, it was like, why do you want to go to college? Like, you don't need to get a job. Your husband will support you. And that was said, like, and it's like, what are we, 1950? Like, it was, right? It was like crazy. And just, you know, constant messages of like women were not allowed to lead. And so that was covert. But to always feel like I'm a second-class citizen growing up was really quite ingrained. And I've had to figure out how to tame my monkey mind. So I love playing with the visual, of course, you know, pulling on the dominatrix theme. I put a ball gag on my monkey mind to shut him up.
Right?
Oh,
that's good.
Because when you got that in, like,
that's a good visual,
right? Like a dog, you can't understand them.
Wow.
Yeah, and so,
love it.
and it's talking back to the monkey mind and like, no, that's not actually true. What if that's not true? What if, you know, doubting the doubt and spinning it, and then, you know, now at this point, I have done so much of my own inner work. I've really dug deep, and there's more. Like, I just love it. I'm like, what's next? Yeah. But having done so much work, I can lean into saying, okay, what is this bringing me? What is the gift? What's here to be moved out? What's ready to go? I'm not perfect. But what I do find is that the longer I do this work, the faster I course correct, the easier it is to remember to pull in some tools, shift things around, get that, you know, get myself back on track. And so I have more days where I'm in action, in strategic, aligned action. I think that's important because it's not just about being the busy work, because like I have done years of that, you know, push, hustle, grind, all, you know, I can hustle and grind with the best of them and go nowhere.
Yes.
But when I drop into being in that strategic, aligned, intuitive flow, my business becomes profitable.
Wow. I love that. I was just coaching a client today, the same thing. Beautiful business and brand she's building. Her product is phenomenal. And she's in the, you know, she's still in the early stages of it, you know, and she's like, well, I could do this, I could do that. And I said, no, you are the visionary and the leader. Like, your role is this, to be doing that, because that's what happens to us. So that's fantastic. That is the position you take, and you tap into that every day. Mm-hmm. So I'll bet you have plenty of tools in your tool belt and in your, dominatrix room to really help and support your clients. So, so what tip or tips would you give anyone right now who's on the fence whether they should work with you or not? What piece of advice? I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but
Okay.
I like to do that. So
yeah, so I am a really, really big believer of intuition, and it's a matter of dropping in and saying, okay, if money was no object, is this person in front of me a good fit? And intuitively whether someone is. Right? You that first connection, you and I met and we just instantly clicked, hit it off. We were like, oh my goodness, soul sisters, right?
Yep.
That spark is what you want to think about, because that's the intuitive knowing of like what is aligned for you. Because if we get up in our head about, well, how much will it cost, and all those things, and it's not that it's I mean, some people think it's expensive, some people think it's still cheap. So the money is not real anyway. But I would say for me, if you want to get into the head a little bit, primarily what I work with is people who they know what they should be doing, but they're not pulling the trigger. Or if, some people, they get up into, the 7-figure level and all of a sudden, they hit a crash and it's like, whoa, what happened? And so sometimes you hit that ceiling of how much you're allowed to bring in. And then, right. And then it goes crashing down. And so we need to bust through that next ceiling. And for me, I think that the mindset consciousness work keeps things constantly expanding, and it keeps you out of those, crashes, like the really low crashes. Like you might have little dips, but the crashes don't go as far. So yeah, if you know, like, what you should be doing, but there's just something that's like, it's just, why am I not pulling the trigger? Maybe there's a deeper layer that needs to heal in order to step in. And it doesn't have to be, traumatizing and having, hours of crying.
Right.
It's like, it can move quickly.
Amen, sister. I totally agree. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, I'm going to ask you what I ask all of our guests. How do you live the I have today way?
So it's the same piece of like, I'm living with my tools, and one of my tools is to play with questions.
Oh, so, I love it.
Okay. And so, so I'll give a little bit of the science behind it. So most people use questions as a way to kind of beat themselves up. And it's when we ask questions like, why am I so fucked up? Why is this not working? Why can't I make any money? What happens is that our monkey mind, our subconscious, is given the task to go and look for evidence. And if you keep asking that question, eventually your monkey mind has volumes of evidence. And it's like, oh, girlfriend, I can tell you like stories, right? But if we start to use that, that information to our advantage, instead, we change up how we phrase the question. We say, I wonder, right? Because we want to play. We want to have that wonderment, that childlike curiosity. So we don't know what the answer is. We're like, I wonder why it's so easy for me to make money.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And in phrasing the question this way, your monkey mind cannot dispute it, because you're not saying, I am a wealthy person. Please don't ever do any of those affirmations. Like, it's just, like your monkey mind goes, have you seen the bank account? No, you're not. Right.
Yes.
But when you say, I wonder why it's so easy for me to make money, the monkey's like, well, I don't know. I need to find out.
Yes.
You ask that question once a day, and eventually the monkey has new volumes of evidence.
Yes. Yes. Because it's now programmed to seek that and find that for you. I know I do a lot of this mindset work too. This is why there's so much symmetry between us. I love that. So you play with the questions. Yes, I wonder. And I love, I wonder. Question. I wonder, what would it be like? What would it be like? What if? And it's great. I love this, Dana. It's so great. So that's the way you do it. So that's very intentional living, which is so powerful.
I just want to like really reinforce the fact that it's like so many people think that it's the words that do it, but it's actually not. It is the energy that you embody when you are asking the question. So if you get into that curiosity, you don't know what the answer is, you're really just curious and open. That's the secret to it. Because you could just say, I wonder why it's so easy for me to make money. And that's not an open question.
It's not. This is such a good point that you're making. You guys, if you're listening or watching this, you're right. You have to go to the feeling place of it. So if you're saying, I wonder why it's so easy for me to make money. I wonder why it's so easy for me to attract clients or whatever the thing is that you want, give yourself the minute to feel what that might be like. Actually let it anchor in you, pull that energy to you so that you can feel it. Because if you're just like flying through a list of affirmations and you don't believe them, you're wasting your breath and you're wasting your time, right?
And you're actually reinforcing the thing that you don't want.
Exactly.
So skip it.
Yeah.
If you're not going to feel it, skip it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're not going to feel it, skip it. I love it. Okay. All right. So before we get to your gift, is there any last piece of advice you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, I always love to be given a chance to reinforce the message that you're not broken. You've never been broken. Everything you have is already inside of you. And I love inviting people to step into personal development from the space of, I'm doing this because I choose to.
Yes.
Kind of like an Olympic athlete doesn't need a coach per se, and yet they hire a coach because they continually want to get better.
Yes.
They're not broken. They're at the top of their field, but they want to get better because they want to get better for themselves.
Beautiful. Well said. And we should all want that. You know, I don't like to say the word should, but you know, that should be something that we aspire to do, is to get better and better and better. We all have the capacity, and we can't see ourselves the way others see us. I always say you can't read the label from inside the bottle. So we need the coach, we need the mentor, we need the support. And you've got a fantastic spin on it. Your life, all the lessons you've learned along the way that make you so unique and special at what you do. It's been such an honor having you on the show, Dana. I love you. I can't wait to meet you in person, because we will definitely be meeting in person. I know this for sure.
Love it.
And then you have a gift that you want to share with the audience. Will you please give them the information?
Yes. So my book, Become a Badass in Business, is a bestseller. And if you jump over to innerdominatrix.com, you can get a free digital copy of the book.
Nice. Yeah. Very nice. Okay, so that's innerdominatrix.com. If you're watching this here, we'll have a link for it in the comments section. If you're listening to this on the podcast, you can find the link for it on my website at dianeforster.com under the podcast tab. We'll have all the information about Dana there as well. And it's been a privilege and an honor having you on the show. And I can't wait to read your book and other ways that you and I could collaborate and how I could support you. And you just keep doing the phenomenal work, because you are truly changing lives out there. And I just love and respect you so much. So
right back at you. I feel exactly the same way about you.
Well, thank you so much. All right. That's it for this week's edition of I Have Today. I'm Diane Forster, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.